Why do you think we read literature? Have you ever wondered why do we read literature? We do so in order to understand, appreciate and enjoy what immensely talented men and women over the centuries have put in writing for our benefit. Emotions, moving experiences, suspense, creative use of language, great issues, etc. As we read, we make a personal response to the piece of literature, concern relating its substance to our own personal experience, or to laugh, to cry, or simply to enjoy. We will learn to study character, how a plot develops, and what makes poetry poetry. Let us do one activity. In order to do this activity, we should know what is aging. Aging is to grow old, means it's a natural process. Have you ever thought of what our elderly parents expect from us? Elderly parents means those who are above 65 years of age. Here in the beside picture, we have shown the stages of life as a baby, grown, then a boy, then youth, then middleman, then senior citizen, and then more senior citizen. Another activity which is stated here is you need to answer these questions. How old are you? How old is your brother or sister? How old is your father? How old is your mother? You might have answered all these four questions in earlier slide. So the answer comes like my mother is at 45, 54 or 60 or 60 above. Now we'll see the poem entitled as My Mother at 66, written by Kamala Das. Let us see something more about the poet. Kamala Das is an Indian author. She has written by the name Kamala Suraya after converting to Islam. She has adopted pen name as Madhavi to write in Malayalam, and Kamala Das, by which she is very much famous. Before marriage, she was Kamala Das. She was born on March 31, 1934, Thrissur at Malabar coast in Kerala. That was pre-independence India. And she died on May 31, 2009 in Pune. So you may find a close association of these things, that she had taken her last breath in Pune. Indian author who wrote openly and frankly about female desires and the experience of being an Indian woman. Das was a part of a generation of Indian writers whose work centered on personal rather than colonial experiences. And her short stories, poetry, memoirs, and essays brought her respect, notoriety in equal measures. Das wrote both in English, mostly poetry, and under the pen name Madhavi in the Malayalam language of South India. Now we'll proceed for understanding Kamala Das' poetry. She has written one poem, very classic poem. In this poem, she talks about words. Let us read out that poem. All round me are words and words and words. They grow on me like leaves, they never seem to stop their slow growing from within. But I tell myself, words are a nuisance. Beware of them. They can be so many things. A chasm where running feet must pause to look, a sea with paralyzing waves, a blast of burning air, or a knife most willing to cut your best friend's throat. Words are a nuisance, but they grow on me like leaves on a tree. They never seem to stop their coming from a silence somewhere deep within. Words come out from the depth of silence, but take a turn when they are used and applied in to suit different purposes and propositions. The poetess Kamala Das is very much mature enough to know the word's meaning when it is coming from the heart. Now in this slide we will see a photograph of the author of this poem. The pictures which are indicating here at her young age with her children and at her old age. She is wearing a burqa and in clad cloth, black clad cloth. In the alongside picture we will see one age-old woman who is looking very pale, old, wrinkled, as if waiting for her approaching death. As you have seen in earlier slide, the style of Kamala Das poetry. Let us go for another slide which states the poem which is prescribed for our textbook class 12. I'll read it out for you. It's entitled as My Mother at 66. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, dozed, open-mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked, but soon put that thought away and looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, wan, pale as a late winter's moon, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. But all I said was, "See you soon, Amma." All I did was smile and smile and smile. Now we will see the poem in detail. Kamala Das is a very sensitive writer who captures the complex subtleties of human relationships in lyrical idiom. My Mother at 66 is an example of this. We'll see this poem. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, dozed, open mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she thought away and looked, but soon put that thought away. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday. So the reference is given. She is driving to Cochin. As in the adjoining picture, you can see a lady which is holding a bag in her hand, and her upper hand is waving to that old lady. That old lady is her mother, and the lady which is waving her hands is Kamala Das. And the flight is shown, means she is going to Cochin airport. She saw her mother while going. They were going in a car, and that time both were sitting adjacent to each other, and Kamala Das saw her mother beside her. She was dozing, lightly sleeping, open mouth, as most of the people do sleep. Sometimes I doubt whether the insects will not enter in. Her face ashen like that of a corpse. Her face is very pale, ashen. Ash is of white and black color mixed one. Her color complexion is also such that she looks like a corpse, and realized with pain. What realized? Her approaching death. And she thought away and looked, but soon put that thought away. So why I should think about it? Kamala Das might have thought that time. If the person is sitting near to me, now the person is alive, why should I think about her approaching death? She put that thought away and looked out from the car windshield at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. But after the airport's security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her. Now here, the two contradictory images have been shown. So inside, her mother is dozing, looking like a corpse. And outside, when she says, the young trees are sprinting, new leaves have come, the merry children are spilling out of their homes, merrily, happily, enjoying each other, teasing, playing. But when they reach, these are the contradictory images, as if one is showing the life and one is showing the death. Deadly atmosphere, lively atmosphere. But after the airport security check, that checking of the passport, visa, bags, etc., standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, wan, pale, as a late winter's moon. Here, the simile is referred. How poet's mother look? Poet mother look like late winter's moon. It's a waning moon. Waxing moon is growing moon. Now her life is at the end of the stage, so it is waning. Waning means going and shrinking towards the end, and felt that old familiar ache. What is that familiar ache she is talking about? When she was small, at that time she had to leave her and go for her education. That time she had departed from her. Another familiar ache is that when she was traveling in a car to come to this Cochin airport, at that time she might have thought about her death. That familiar ache had come. Ache means the pain of the thought which may be going to convert into reality. And her childhood fear is that because when her mother was of her age and she was small, during that childhood period, to her mother, Kamala Das might have asked, where do the persons go after their death? She might have replied her, in the heaven, or they depart from this earthly world. That childhood fear might have come back, but all she said was, see you soon, Amma. That is the assurance which she is giving from her side, assurance which is not sure of. All she did was smile and smile and smile. Remember, in earlier poem also we have seen words, words and words. 3 times she is saying those lines also, and again in this ending line also it is smile, smile and smile. This is alliteration. The sound so is repeated, as well as repetition kind of figures of speech where the word is repeated. Smile, smile and smile, though she is going miles away from her. Now we'll see one more time the main points of the poem. The poet is driving from her parents' home to Cochin by car. Her mother by her side, sleeping, open mouthed, very pale, colorless, and frail like dead body, indicating that her end was near. The poet looks at her and feels intense pain and agony to realize that soon death will cast her mother from her. She tries to divert her mind, looks outside at young trees and happy children bursting out of their homes in a playful mood. What is the scene inside? It's a contrasting scene. After the security check at airport, she looked again at her mother's face. While security check is going on, she was very busy and she was not able to, but her mother was standing there looking at her. So she looked back again towards her mother. She was pale and cold. And that familiar ache, her childhood fear, the poet has always had a very intimate and close relationship with her mother, and she had always felt that the fear of being separated from her mother, and hence it is familiar. So, though we are living in our life, the time comes, the situation comes when we are departing from our very dear ones and near ones, either for the job purpose, either for the purpose of going in and traveling and doing excursions in other countries, or sometimes it is depending that only two members of the family are going and other two are remaining at home. That kind of situations occur nowadays. If we see the situation, nobody is going out of the house. So this is, the situations are not in our hand, so we do just response to the situations as it demands. The poet reassures her mother that they will meet again. This assurance is very important. See you soon. When these words are said, it means that the person believes that our next meeting is scheduled. Now let's move on to the next slide, which says and states about the theme and the sub-theme of the poem. The theme of this poem says advancing age. As one takes birth, the baby grows into a boy or girl, and then it proceeds to adulthood, then adulthood to agehood, and lastly the death approaches. Another theme goes parallelly with this advancing age is the fear of loss and separation that is there with everybody's life. Now, figures of speech which are used in this poem are, first one is simile. It is indicated in this line, her face ashen like that of a corpse as a late winter's moon. The repetition is seen in the line smile, smile, and smile. The same line can be stated for alliteration also, as s sound is repeated. And last figures of speech is contrast. Old mother in the car has been contrasted with the young trees running and happy children coming out of their homes, to the sadness of the poet on realizing the advancing age of her mother. So, here we are concluding the poem. Hope you have enjoyed it. Log on to website where Kamala Das and her poetry is revealed more.